What's up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Joannis or Joe Hatagwa. I'm a Sierra Leonean American living here in Accra, Ghana. And if you want to know about what's going on with Africans in the Ukraine right now, then this is the video for you. All right, guys, we're live. It has been a crazy 72 hours, 72 to 96 hours. I've been trying to follow what's going on with some Africans in the UK and how they've been treated by UK officials. There's a lot of stories, conflicting messages, conflicting ideas about what is happening and why it's happening. And I want to try to use this time to share what I know, what I've been researching, and get your thoughts on what you see is happening. So let me know if you guys can hear me. I see a few people joining. What's up, JFC495? See a few people on Instagram showing up. Let me know if you guys can hear me. Give me a thumbs up on YouTube and give me a thumbs up on Instagram if you can hear me. We got a lot to talk about today, and I want to make sure that I get into it with all of you and you guys give me your thoughts. All right, so just a couple people on YouTube. Hey, Miss P. Hey, PH Dami. All right, so PH Dami says, as long as we are in the West, we will never feel at home. This is why we diasporans need to go back home to the motherland. Okay, cool. I don't disagree. Jose Cruz says, family, what's good? Hope all is well. Pray for the Afro brothers and sisters in Ukraine. Yes. Healing thoughts being sent their way. All right, so you guys can all hear me. Cool. Miss P says, hello, everyone. What's up, Miss P? PH Dami. Let me know if I'm pronouncing it right. Says hello. Sawana says hello. Miss Peace. Okay, you guys can all hear me. Good. David says you can. He said hello. You guys can hear me. Okay, cool. So, I think maybe we should just start with what is going on in the Ukraine, right? I think before we get into what's happening with Africans in the Ukraine, maybe we should explain the Ukraine and what has happened there. So, for those of you who are unfamiliar, and I'm not going to give you the whole history of the USSR and Russia, but the Ukraine is a neighboring country to Russia. It doesn't normally impact what's going on there. Doesn't normally impact most of our lives, whether you're in the West or you're here in West Africa. It in general doesn't impact you. What's going on between these two countries. However, in some cases, people are dependent on a little bit of gas and oil from that region. And in other cases, there are people who are going to school in that country and in that region who are directly impacted by what is happening today. So let me just walk you through the Russo-Ukrainian War from a standpoint of Wikipedia. Now, I know a lot of people will tell me that Wikipedia is written by average people, but knowing what I know, this is the basics of what's going on in the Ukraine, and then we can talk about what's happening to the Africans there right now. I just want to make sure everybody's aware of like the Ukraine situation, which is leading to what is happening now. I see Maha joined. What's up? I think there's somebody named Jaha Yiti joined. Shout out to you. Okay, so Sunrise Rose 60 says it sounds like a few of them had Walt Disney experience and other immigrants have nightmares. I think it depends on where you're trying to go, what you're trying to do. But let me quickly just walk through what's going on in Russia and the Ukraine between the two countries, because I think it might be important to know. So let me just read to you what it says here on Wikipedia. So number one, it's the Russo-Ukrainian War is an ongoing war primarily involving Russia, Belarus, and pro-Russian forces on one side and Ukraine on the other. So the conflict goes back further than 2014, but it got escalated in 2014 under President Barack Obama. So what happened was in February 2014, there was an event called the Revolution of Dignity, and that focused on the status of Crimea and parts of Donbass, which were internationally recognized as part of Ukraine. The conflict basically included the Russian annexation of Crimea, the war in Donbass, 2014 till now, naval incidents, cyber warfare, political tensions. Basically, Russia gave military backing to the group that was willing to move in on Crimea and take over Crimea. And basically, Crimea is now no longer part of Ukraine. The US put sanctions on Russia. What that means is, for those of you who are not familiar, that means that the US says that we are not going to trade with you, right? And usually you try to get other countries who do business with Russia to sign on with that. All right, so this is not saying the US is better than Russia or anything like that. I'm just saying this is what happened. Throughout the Trump years, there was some loosening of sanctions and ideas that maybe it wasn't as necessary to be as opposed to Russia and their dealings as had been previously under the previous administration. And so it seemed that Russia had been a little bit more relaxed through those 4 years under President 45 or Trump, right? And so also part of this issue that Russia's having with the Ukraine is this, the idea of the North Atlantic Trade Association organization at NATO, wanting to bring Ukraine into NATO, or at least acting like they do, which is really pissing off Russia because Russia doesn't like that their former colonies from the USSR are now being brought into broader Europe. They're not into it. And so this has led to tensions and a lot of attempts at diplomatic ways to ensure that, Russia does not invade the Ukraine as a whole. And as of 2 or 3 weeks ago, Biden basically said, without saying it, basically he was like, look, if they don't really invade Crimea, we're not going to really do anything about it. And so it was more like, we'll deal with it depending on what happens. And last week, Russia invaded Crimea. So so that's the broad understanding of what happened, right? And you guys can throw in some facts, thoughts, if there's anything you feel that I'm missing. But that's the basics. Now, most people don't care about that because it's so far away and it doesn't necessarily impact you directly. No matter where you are watching this, most people who watch this, it probably doesn't directly impact you because many of you who are in Europe are not close enough for it to directly impact you. Many of you who are here in West Africa and many people in the United States, that normally would not be something that impacts you. However, there are many Africans going to school in the Ukraine currently. And so, anytime you're in a country and there's a war going on, you want to try to get out. Okay, let me take a step back. It may be impacting you because the price of gas has gone up. So let me take a step back. The price of gas can go up, especially for those who are utilizing Russia for gas, right? And then, of course, if we have sanctions on Russia and we mean the country that you might be in is relying on other sources of oil, then, of course, your gas prices will go up. Everybody's been telling me, I don't drive. I use Uber everywhere I go, but everybody's been telling me the price of gas has gone up. So let me say that. So it does impact you in that way, but most people don't feel the direct impact. This last weekend, I was at the barber shop and the barber mentioned to me that he is in a group chat with the other barbers and they told him that there are a bunch of Africans stranded in the Ukraine right now that aren't able to leave. And so I wasn't like, I didn't even really get what he meant because I didn't think there were Africans in the Ukraine. I mean, of course, there are Africans everywhere, but I just didn't think it made sense for them to be in the Ukraine. And then he mentioned to me there's a ton in college there, especially a bunch of Nigerians and Ghanaians. And so, you know, I started looking into this more, and I realized that there are many stories and many like firsthand videos being shown of what's happening. I'm going to play those in a second so that you guys can see, if you haven't been following along with this and haven't been hearing about what's been happening. I will caveat it by saying there's no real context around these videos, right? These are firsthand accounts with people's cell phones, but they're pretty self-explanatory and descriptive. I'll read some of the stories that have come out. What I have realized is most major outlets are not really speaking about the plight of the Africans in the Ukraine right now. They're talking a lot about peace talks between the Ukraine and Russia. They're talking about the nightmare it was for Ukrainians to cross the border to Poland, but they're talking about those who have crossed the border into Poland, and they're not talking about those Africans that are stranded in the Ukraine right now. So I'm going to play some of these videos now so you guys can get an idea of what's happening on the ground. I want to get your thoughts and your comments. I will give you my thoughts, and then I'll read some of the stories that have come out subsequently since then. Al Jazeera has been doing some stuff. There's also Business Insider Africa has written an article, but outside of that, I haven't really found much of anything. So I just wanted to give you all that context before you got into what is exactly happening in the Ukraine right now. Before I get into that, any questions, any comments, anything that anybody wants to add before I start playing these videos and getting into this? JFC 495 said it surprised him that there were Africans in the Ukraine. Yeah, it did. It definitely surprised me. Before we get into the videos, just want to acknowledge only one showed up. What's up? Shout out to you. Yeah, so thoughts, ideas, questions, comments on anything I've said so far, anything I missed. I tend to try to be a historian as much as I can, pay attention to what's going on in the world, because I've been caught flat-footed before where things are happening in the world that I wasn't paying attention to, and it has affected me directly. So I try my best to pay attention to what's going on, and I encourage all of you to as well. I mean, I think, you know, obviously this channel is about what's happening on the continent and what it's like to move here, but you should be knowing about what's going on all around the world, because that information could indirectly or directly impact you in one way or another without you even knowing. So just a piece of advice. Okay, so some other comment. Okay, so Esmeralda Johnson says hello. Sorry, tell me how to pronounce your name. And Ms. P says, anytime I see Black people being mistreated anywhere in the world, it will impact me. It's very heartbreaking. Yes, it's very heartbreaking. You know, an injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Correct me if I'm wrong. That's a Martin Luther King phrase. But yeah, but anyway, all right, so let me get into these videos so you guys can see what's going on. So DMC is saying, is there an embassy for these individuals can go? So apparently there are embassies in the Ukraine. I mean, as far as I'm understanding, Ukraine, Nigeria embassy. There is an embassy in the Ukraine. Actually, sorry, this is the Ukraine embassy in Nigeria. Let me see if there's a Nigeria embassy in Ukraine. There is. Okay, and is there a Ghanaian embassy in Ukraine? So there are. But a lot of times when these things happen, diplomats get helicoptered out or whisked across the border, and it's up to the citizens to fend for themselves. So Sunrise Rose is asking, why are there a lot of Africans in the Ukraine? So from what I understand, there are at least a few hundred in schools in the Ukraine. A lot of them going to school. Beyond that, I'm not really sure why else they would be there besides school. I mean, maybe work. But yeah, so that's what I understand to be true. Okay, cool. So let me play these videos for you guys. I think you guys have been anticipating seeing what's going on. So if you're watching this on Instagram live. After this live is over, just go to my page. I'm posting these videos on my story. But those of you who are on YouTube, you may not have seen these videos. So I want to play some of them for you. So I'm going to just play this video really quickly, and we'll get some commentary. I'm going to play all 3 in a row. Well, I'm going to play them and then give commentary and give my thoughts and then play the next one. So let's start with this one.
Pushing her, they're not letting her go. They're not letting her go. Is it right?
So really quickly, just to give context before I go any further on this video, what's happening right now is there is an African woman trying to get on a train, this train that is going towards Poland, right? And according to the person who's recording this, and from what you can see, the police are not letting her on the train.
They're not letting the black girl go. They're not letting the black girl go. They're not letting the black girl go. They're not letting the black girl go.
Ukrainian on the train. A white Ukrainian woman, they did let her on the train. So, I mean, it's not as if there seems to be any other difference between that. Now, from what we can see, I understand that now they're letting in women, they're letting women and children in, they're letting Africans in to some degree. I don't know how many or how often. I'm seeing some notes here and there, people saying that, but this was the state of how things were on Friday, and I haven't heard it's much better than that now. But let me keep playing this video.
They're not letting the black girl go. They're not letting the black girl go. The black girl go. They're pushing her. They're not letting her go. They're not letting her go. Is it right? Black girl.
All right. So this started to spark a little bit of outrage, right? I think people have been a little bit misinformed or haven't really been sharing these kinds of stories that much. I follow a lot of pages that are focused on things happening in Africa and the diaspora. And I haven't heard a lot of people sharing this content or even talking about this. I hear people talking about the Russia-Ukraine conflict. Like I just saw an episode of Brilliant Idiots talking about it. That's Charlemagne the God and Andrew Schultz, who have this podcast. And I've seen other people attempt to talk about Russia-Ukraine conflict, but I don't see anybody talking about what's happening with the Africans there. So I just thought it would make sense to use this platform to talk about it as much as I can, get people's thoughts, ideas, and share information. I also have access to some information that I'm going to share, and I'm going to put in the comments below the YouTube video, and then also on Instagram, just to talk through like what recommendations there are for people that they can reach out to while there. And apparently there's transportation out of the country that some people are working on. But it seems as if the main modes of public transportation have caused some really, really big issues. So Sunrise Rose feels that major news outlets are afraid to talk about it. She also mentions that the train seemed empty, or the train was empty. Yeah, I mean, I don't know why they'd be afraid to talk about it, but who knows what it is. I think, honestly, when you're talking about hundreds of Africans, news outlets across the world don't find that interesting enough that they decide what they think people who watch the news cares about. And this just shows they don't care. They don't think people who watch their news care about this. That's really, to me, that's what it comes down to. The news always chooses what they think you're going to continue to watch and what you're going to focus on. And so they don't think enough people in the UK or in the US care enough about hundreds of Africans being stranded in the Ukraine to share that as part of the story. Now, whether that's malicious intent, whether it's for any other reason, I don't know, but that's their incentive, is whether or not they think you're going to tune back in the next day or for the next segment, and they just don't feel like they think you care enough. And it's unfortunate, but that's the way news outlets work. And so that's why you don't see it on any of the major news outlets right now, right? They don't want racism take over sympathy. That's what Sunrise Rose said. Yeah. So yeah, that's the first video. And that one was kind of just like, okay, so that was the first video I saw. And I was just like, what's happening here? This seems a little strange. And so I started looking at stories, right? Al Jazeera had a story about this. And I tend to go with Al Jazeera a lot because most of the time they tend to just report the straight up facts, not too many spins one way or another, at least from my experience reading, reading as, their stories and watching their videos. But here's what they said, right? So let me show you my screen just so you can see this story. Okay, I got two monitors, so just gotta go over to the second monitor. So I have it highlighted here. So basically, a reporter from Al Jazeera America was at the border and talking to border control. Now, if you look at this story, right, as you can see, the pictures they're showing are people who aren't of color that are crossing the border, right? And those are the people who have crossed the border. You see? And then this video will also show you the same thing. These are people now coming into Poland from the Ukraine, right? And sorry if you guys are watching on Instagram Live. The video will be up on YouTube though, and I'm going to share that video on Instagram as well, so you guys can check it out. But so here's what it was an anonymous border patrol person, right? It wasn't an anonymous person from the Polish Ministry of Internal Affairs. So they didn't get their name on record, but this is what they said. It's not a quote, but this is what they said. They said, anyone from Ukraine is allowed entry, even those who do not hold valid passports, Polish officials said. So now, to me, from that video we just saw, it seems like certain anyones are allowed into Poland. Not everyone is allowed into Poland, where this person who works for the Polish Ministry of Internal Affairs says everyone is allowed in. I'm only going based on the videos that I see. Obviously, I'm not on the ground, so I can only go from firsthand accounts. But these are the things that we're seeing. So I read this, and then I continue to like check in and see, okay, what's going on? So then I go back to Instagram, and I see this post. These are the before I keep playing the video. So it says that is a 2-month-old baby in 3 degrees at night on the Polish border. They're not letting any Black people shelter or to cross. Now, apparently, this video got shared enough. I saw somebody write, I think it was Ghana Post of one of these who posted this, that said that this baby and this mother have now been let across, but they hadn't been originally. But I mean, this was for hours they were outside. They are not allowing any Black people enter inside the gate. I don't know if you guys can hear the video at night. Even the ones with kids, they're not allowing them. They really have to hear for days, and nobody's asking any questions. It's really, really wild to see. I can't even imagine what that must be like. Not sure what's happening in the country that you're staying in. Obviously there's an invasion happening and you want to get out of there as soon as possible, and not really having many options for how to leave. And you're just standing at the border in 3-degree weather. That's 3 degrees Celsius, by the way, if I'm not mistaken, not 3 degrees Fahrenheit. 3 degrees Celsius is 3 degrees above freezing. So it's still very cold, right? Because freezing is 0 degrees Celsius. So it's still very cold outside. And they're just out there waiting to figure out what's going on. So here's what Al Jazeera says about Nigerian students caught in the Russia-Ukraine war. So this story came out yesterday. So after a couple of days of all these videos being shared, Al Jazeera did put out this story. So let me go ahead and share my screen so I can walk you through what they said. Okay, so So the headline says Nigerian students caught in the Russia-Ukraine war. Students scramble to leave Ukraine as the conflict intensifies, reaching new cities. Right? So they have a story. So her name is it Lolade? Basically says, it's scary, very scary. I'm very worried. People are running for their lives. We are hiding in groups so we can keep an eye on each other. This is what she told Al Jazeera over the phone as she sheltered with other students at a safe bunker in a northeastern city of Sumi. So, you know, if you have no idea what's happening in your country, there's a war breaking out and you maybe can't get to a border. I guess some of them are trying to shelter together and try to see what's going on. So Russian President Vladimir Putin ordered what he said was a special military operation against Ukraine, and that was last Thursday. So he said, and then a full-scale invasion followed with Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky declaring martial law, saying his country would defend itself, which means like everybody stay home and we need to defend ourselves by all means. On Saturday, the fighting reached the streets of Ukraine, the capital Kiev, when Russian troops pressed ahead. According to the US military, Russia now has at least 50% of its estimated 150,000 invasion forces in Ukraine. So that's basically 75,000 troops in the Ukraine right now. So if you can imagine, if you're in the Ukraine, this is really scary, right? So people are trying to escape and trying to leave. One of the border countries is Poland, right? So that's where people are trying to escape from the Ukraine to get to Poland. So let me play this last video so that you can see where people are just sitting around waiting to find out if they can cross over. So you can't really see this, but the Ukrainian or Polish, I don't know who it is, but the military or the police that are at the border are pointing firearms at the people. The people are saying, we don't have arms. We're students. We don't have arms, meaning we don't have guns or anything. We are just trying to cross. So hear what they're saying. I mean, if you can hear them, let me know if you guys can't hear, but I'll try to tell you what they're saying.
We don't have arms. We are students. No arms.
I heard we are students. We don't have arms.
We don't have arms. We are students. We are students.
So you hear them yelling, we don't have arms, we are students, we are students.
We are students. We are students. We are students. We are students. We are students. We are students.
And so some of them are recording and saying, get out your phones to record what's happening. So can you imagine being in a country, not your country, right? You're there for school. A war breaks out. You're trying to escape because you have no other option but to try to leave, and you can't leave the country. Right? Like how would that impact you, right? If this was your situation? To me, it's the craziest thing. I don't even know what to do. So what I started doing was looking at what are the solutions, what are the options to help some of these people. And there's a lot of numbers. Let me show you guys what I saw. There was a woman, Dr. Allende, I think is Alakija, said, for all Africans stranded in the Ukraine, I have these contacts for you at the Poland border with buses. Call them. So here's the information here. Let me share it on the screen. And I'm also going to put it in the chat, and I will put it in the comments as well. But yeah, I mean, this is alarming. It's really crazy what's happening right now. And here's the link on Twitter to what the post says. So there's a link on Twitter, and I put it in the chat, and I'm going to put it on the post. So this live on Instagram will end up being a post, and so this will go in the description on the post on Instagram as well. But let me get your thoughts about what's happening, what you think the solutions might be, just anything. I want to hear from you guys. So as Mariah says, this is a painful experience. May the good Lord help them. Yeah, I mean, it's crazy to hear. And you know, for me, you know, I hate seeing stuff like this, right? Because I just wish that people would want to go to school here and could feel like if they went to school here in Africa, that they can leave the university with a career that they can be proud of and not feel like they have to go to someone else's country to get an education. I wish more people felt like that. It's unfortunate because all those hundreds of people have gone to school elsewhere and opted not to go to school in their home country, which is really unfortunate. You know, me having grown up in the United States, you know, it never occurred to me to go to college anywhere else, right? I always just felt like that was the best option for me. And I would love to see that here in West Africa. It's really like heartbreaking to see. It really is. So yeah, I mean, it's tough to see. And she says, you don't know where to run because they are strangers. Yeah, I mean, you don't know these countries. You don't know Poland. You don't know anything, right? You're just trying to get away from what's happening. Yeah, it's really crazy. It's really wild. I don't even know what to say. Like, to me, this was probably one of the hardest things I've seen this year. Because it, you know, to me, it's indicative of all the things we've seen over the last 2 years, and like things that are happening between groups of people that have nothing to do with these guys, right? You know, these guys are in fear of their lives, and it has nothing to do with them. This really has nothing to do with them. They went to school to try to better themselves, and in that process, they end up stranded in a country where they're going to war with another neighboring country, which has nothing to do with them. And to me, I think that that's probably the saddest part, because they for whatever reason decided not to go to school in their home country and decided to go to college in this country, the Ukraine, and this is what's happening. All right, cool. So any other thoughts, ideas? I'm gonna, as much as I can, I'm gonna share all the different information and insight that I found online for people that they can reach out to. And I think you guys should share this video with people. Share this with anybody you know. Share these videos with people. And as much as you can, anybody who can, share the information that I'm sharing as well. You know, I only have so much reach, right? And so, you know, I'm counting on you guys to help as much as you can. Just do whatever little you can to share this information with people, and share who they can reach out to so that they can move on, they can get out of the country. Because I don't know how soon Ukraine will, you know, or Poland, I should say, will allow people in. And so I think it's really important that you guys share this information so that they can take private buses across the border, maybe at the help of other people who have access and who can help them out. So there's some phone numbers that I'm sharing. I shared it in the chat here, and I also shared the tweet, so that, and you can follow Dr. Allende, so you can see what's going on, and she's going to be giving updates. But definitely share as much as you can, as often as you can, and make sure that people are aware of what they can do to get out of the country. All right. So unfortunately, I wasn't able to get anybody else on. I wanted to have someone else join who was a little bit more of an expert in the conflict in the Ukraine and their thoughts on what's happening with Africans there. I wasn't able to get her on, so I'm looking to see if I can get her on next week or at another time this week to give an update. But in the meantime, I did want to mention, you know, I had been using an editor who is in Eastern Europe, and she actually has been directly impacted by this. She has family members that are in the Ukraine trying to get out. So yeah, man, it's been crazy all around for people, but I mean, it seems as though Africans have been the ones who haven't been able to get out of the country. So No Narrative is just joined. What's up? Her question is, she says she's a little bit behind. So what I'm just talking about today is just what's happening with Africans in the Ukraine not being able to get out. There's been what seems like preferential treatment to allow Ukrainians into Poland, but not allow Africans into Poland. Many of them are students. I read from an article that Al Jazeera had that said that they talked to the Polish officials who said they're allowing people through without visas, even if they don't have visas. But that doesn't seem to be the case for many students. And so there are a bunch of students there, a bunch of people in college there in the Ukraine who are unable to cross the border. Now that's been what I've been seeing from firsthand accounts on people's cell phones in the Ukraine. And it seems as though that hasn't changed much for the large majority of people. What I'm hearing, though, is that they are letting women with children and maybe also women. But yeah, so that's the case. And so Jehovah 703 says it was just law enforcement. So law enforcement on the Poland side, I guess, is who's keeping people from coming through. So No Narrative, I hope that answers your question. And by the way, have you guys seen any news stories? Let me know in the chat, on any chat. Have you guys been following this? Have you seen any news stories on this? Or have you just been just like me and only seen this from people posting videos and it being reposted on social media? Like, have you guys seen anybody covering this angle of the story, right? Like what's happening with Africans in the Ukraine? Let me know, let me know in the comments if you've seen any prominent news outlets doing it. So No Narrative said, I saw a video yesterday about that. It was the same in China at the beginning of COVID. Yeah, I mean, and what was happening when COVID first hit is in provinces outside of Wuhan, you had Africans that were there where they were being mistreated and as if they were the ones who brought COVID to Africa. I mean, to China. And you saw a lot of that. And there wasn't really any real change I saw for a while. You know, I had people reaching out to me on my Instagram page, because it's long before I had YouTube, reaching out to me on my Instagram page, mentioning they're trying to get out and they didn't know what to do. And, you know, there were people from Sierra Leone trying to get out, trying to get back to Sierra Leone. So I reached out to my friends at some NGOs and see if they could help, but they were limited in their capacity to be able to help. And so it just seems like, you know, it just seems like Africans, no matter where we are in the world, you know, everyone else gets preferential treatment over us, you know, and it's unfortunate. And I think that's why we need to focus on building our own and not looking to the outside world for help, education, business, all those kinds of things. Otherwise, this will continue to happen, right? Stigmatized, we're marginalized. It just is what it is, right? And if we know that this is the case, then I think it's on us to change things so it's no longer like that. So we're no longer reliant on the outside world. So Mr. Bounce Los Angeles says, I've only seen Black media show this. Okay, good. Now, like, is that television media, radio media, or is this just like social media? When you say Black media, I'm interested to hear, because I haven't seen any of the mainstream news outlets talk about it or use this angle. I've only seen like it on social media. So Mr. Bounce Los Angeles says, I have not seen any big corporate media cover the mistreatment of these Africans. Okay. So yeah, so I haven't seen it either. And, you know, this is kind of what it is. I mean, if it gets big enough, like if Rihanna tweets it, or if Beyonce posts something on Instagram, right, then the general mainstream media will cover it, because they tend to cover celebrities. They like to cover celebrities because they think that's going to get them eyeballs. And if the celebrities care about something, then they think it matters enough for them to care about it, right? Which is unfortunate, but that is what it is. And so a lot of times these kinds of stories don't get to the major celebrities out there, right? So they're not really sharing these stories on their social media, which is not really drawing too much attention to what's happening. And so you have situations like this where it continues to get worse, doesn't get fixed, and because there's no spotlight on it. So no one cares to do anything about it. All right. Any other thoughts, ideas, questions, solutions? I wanted to just cover this topic today. I have a really, really long day, and I have an announcement to make for you guys, but I didn't feel like this was the right time to do it. And so I think next Monday, I'll make the announcement. It's a big announcement. And I'm saying and a lot. But I think we wanted to keep this topic on because this was topical, and whatever happened this last weekend, I wanted to share it. But next week, I have a big announcement for you guys, and it's not really pertaining to like social media. It's a personal life announcement. So I'll be sharing that with you all this coming week on Monday. So I'll share that next Monday. But in the meantime, okay, so my cousin Jaya just sent me 2 YouTube videos. What the Russian invasion means for thousands of Africans in the Ukraine. Okay, so this is DW. So these guys, I like this guy. So 2 videos he shared. So let me see if I can share these videos.
The war in Ukraine
This is good. So if you guys are still watching, why not share this? Because I like this channel. This is one of the channels that I follow on YouTube. So DW News Africa, they specifically went into detail about what is happening and how it's affecting people in the Ukraine right now. So let me just play this for you guys.
The war in Ukraine has thousands of Africans on edge. There are currently around 30,000 people of African descent in Ukraine, and Nigeria has the second largest African community there. Many of them are students gone to study in Europe. On the day the attack started, we managed to get hold of one of the Nigerian students in Ukraine. Otumudia Dennis has been in Kharkiv in eastern Ukraine since December and studies medicine at the Kharkiv Institute of Medicine and Biomedical Sciences. I asked him how he felt when the Russian invasion began.
Definitely, it's not funny. Definitely, it's not funny because at 5 a.m., it's not so bright. So when you look at the atmosphere, you can actually, from my window, you can actually see the exchange of, the airstrike. You can see the lightning and all that. The sound of the bomb blast actually woke me up this morning around 5 a.m. I can apparently hear the sound from my window.
Basically, you say that.
Okay, guys. So for those of you who can't see the screen, especially because you're on Instagram Live, what they're showing is you saw like basically it's nighttime and it looks like lightning in the sky, right? You're seeing the airstrikes cause what looks like lightning in the sky. And it's just bombs and fire, right? Return fire between the 2 fighting forces. But I just wanted to give you that context before I continue to play because you can't see it.
Are you scared of what's going on?
I'm not scared. I can't say I'm scared. I'm just disturbed.
Okay.
Mentally. Yeah.
Yeah. Are you alone there, or are you in touch with fellow African students?
We have a lot of Africans. We have a lot of Africans, Nigerians, Morocco, a lot of them.
And talking to them, what are they saying?
The citizens, Ukrainians, most of them that are in my compound, they've actually left. They've left the compound. From what I got, the info I got, most of them are going into Poland. But for foreigners, I don't think most of them are actually going. The ones that have means of mobility, they have private car, or probably a family or a friend has a private car, so they can actually move with ease. The major means of transportation is actually the train station and metro, which is shut down right now. So there's no way foreigners can actually leave.
What do you expect from your government right now?
They just said they will evacuate us when the airports are open. We don't know when the airports will be open.
Oh, so that's another thing I didn't mention earlier, is the airports haven't been open. So, you know, as he mentioned, and this, by the way, was the day that the attacks happened, right? So this is still very early on. This is like last Thursday. This is long before everything that I showed you that happened this weekend, right? This conversation that this student Dennis is having with the reporter from DW News Africa. But yeah, the airports are shut down. So like to evacuate, you can't even evacuate via the air for good reason, right? They don't want anybody shooting down a plane. So they shut down the airports. But yeah, I mean, so the only way that you can leave is crossing over the border by foot or trying to take a train across the border. And as he mentioned, some people are trying to drive, but you know, not many people have that means of transportation there, right? So let's hear what else he has to say.
And if the airports are not open, what should we do? Right now, I'm in Kharkov. I have been trying to reach out to the embassy this morning. I've not been able to do that. The contact they gave to us, one of the numbers is the only one that is going through, and nobody has picked up. So I don't know. We need to get in touch with somebody from the authority that, okay, fine, this is a reliable source. Because right now, it's not just about me. It's about like Nigerians that are here. Especially the females, they are so scared. I have about 2 Nigerians, females they are not currently in my compound, but they're in the same city with me. They're calling me every time. I'm calling them every time. So most of them are very, 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 very scared. So I think the government needs to step up.
Okay, I mean, this is a long video, right? It's a 7-minute and 53-second video. I'm not going to go through the whole video right now. I mean, it's a long video. So I'll send the link here for you guys to watch yourselves to get an idea and understanding of what's happening. I'm going to see if we can get back to his commentary on the details of what's happening beyond what the student is saying. Let me just do that. Let me just play a little bit of that so that you guys can hear what he says.
Out what the Nigerian government is doing to help its citizens in Ukraine. We caught up with Yusuf Buba Yakubu, chairman of the House of Representatives Committee on Foreign Affairs in Nigeria.
A war is not a good thing that any human being should think about. But we hope and pray that this issue will be solved diplomatically, ultimately. As I speak to you, the government is making every arrangement to see that Nigerians that want to be evacuated will be evacuated in due course.
To further discuss the implications of Russia's invasion of Ukraine, DW's Tommy Oladipo joins me now in the studio. Hello, Tommy. Nice to have you here. So tell us, how are African governments responding to Russia's invasion of Ukraine?
Well, we've seen the 3 African countries that are present at the UN Security Council, that's Ghana, Gabon, and Kenya, give strong statements of concern, recognizing Ukraine's sovereignty and saying this this invasion should not have happened. We've seen the African Union, as well as an organization, give a similar statement calling for Russia to respect Ukraine's sovereignty. Now,
okay, so I mean, here's the challenge I have with this, and I mean, I think he's giving really good information. Concern, saying, you know, governments saying that they're concerned, and I cannot pretend to be someone who's a politician. What does concern mean? Like, how are you getting people out, right? Like, how are you getting people out? You know, look, we don't know how much this is going to escalate, and people should be able to be removed from the country immediately, right? You know, I don't want to hear more. Sorry, let me say this. I hear a lot more of, we're going to do what we can. We're going to put something together. We will, for those who want to be evacuated. But we now know hundreds, and if not thousands of people are looking to get evacuated and have not been able to leave. Right. And they're taking matters into their own hands because their own countries have not been able to help them. And so, you know, this I'm concerned. We recognize Ukraine's sovereignty, not really sure that that's assisting those who are on the ground who need to get out of there. So that's my thought process. What do you guys think? No Narrative says, my old political science professor contributes to the New York Times. I can send an email to her, but I have to research a little bit. Okay, sure. Sounds good. Caribou says, I think there will be peace talks soon. Yeah, there were conversations today. Sure, there were conversations today. I don't know if that resulted in anything. It doesn't seem like they came to a resolution, actually. So they're having conversations. But the thing is, the way I look at this, right? If it happened once, it can happen again. And these are things that we have to think about, right? Just to make sure we understand that these things, once they happen one time, they can happen again. And now that Russia, has invaded, there's definitely a potential for them to do it again. Why not, right? Why wouldn't they do it again if they know they can do it without any real consequence, right? A little sanction here or there. I don't know if that's necessarily a deterrent if they're looking to bring back Ukraine as part of what was formerly USSR, part of Russia. So anyway, I'm sharing this link with you guys in the comments so you can check this out on your own time. This video is really good, very good coverage of what's been happening. And then I'm going to share this other link with you guys as well, so you can watch this too. But yeah. To me, it's just really sad, and I'm just going to do what I can to share this story with as many people as possible. And I ask that you guys do your part and share these links and these stories with anyone you know as well. The more people who know about this, the more likely it is that someone who can do something about it will do something about it. All right, with that, I want to probably shut this live down at 10. I have a really, really busy night. I'm doing double duty right now, basically working two full-time jobs at the same time. So I got a ton of work to do this evening. But I just wanted to share this story with you guys. Make sure you guys had a chance to see it, give your input, make sure that you guys do what you can to share it with people. And yeah, then just give my thoughts on it. It's still fresh to me. I don't really have all the details, but from what I can see, I'm not really happy with what I'm seeing. To me, I hear a lot of normal political government talk, which is, we are doing everything we can. There are no specifics though. Like, what is everything you can? Are you sending convoys? Are you renting cars locally so people can drive across? Are you whatever? I don't know what it would take, but to me, I need like concrete solutions, not we're doing everything we can. To me, that doesn't seem like that is a solution to get people out. Now that guy that was a student that first night, he didn't seem too scared. So he seemed to be fine staying there. But there were plenty of people who were scared and who were trying to get across the border, and it looks like are having trouble getting across. So, yeah, I just wanted to bring that to everyone's attention. If you weren't aware, make sure you were, and for you all to share it with anybody that you know. All right. We're at 9:53. Are there any last questions? Okay, here we go. So No Narrative has something. Sanctions are acts of war. Let's not forget that, especially when you're crippling Russia's economy and having their nations co-sign and join the initiative. Yeah, having other nations co-sign and join the initiative. I'm not a political scientist, so you mentioned taking a political science class. If sanctions are considered an act of war, I guess. But we put sanctions and remove sanctions from people all the time, and it's not always a deterrent, especially for Russia. It had been a deterrent for Iran with the nuclear war, the nuclear program, from what we understand. But what happens with sanctions is that a new government can always come in the United States and remove those sanctions, right? And then you can have a situation like this all over again, which is how things have happened in the past, right? And there is no doubt in my mind that certain people who are talking about running for president if they run, they would likely win. And I don't know if they're keeping the sanctions on Russia. Right? And I think that Russia's betting on that and hoping for that. So, not to get too political, but that's just my thought process on that. So I think sanctions are a good start, but I think there are other things that have to happen. But even with that, I mean, these Africans that are there, they need to have a long-term solution for what they're going to do, because I don't know if it makes sense for them to stay in that country, because who knows what's going to happen there in the next 4 years or so while they're in school. As Mariah says, they should have taken the Africans out. If we have good leaders that think about their people, we living in England need to pray because Russian president like war. I know since I was something. I'm guessing you're saying, you know, since you were there or you knew so you maybe visited or something. I'm not going to say anything disparaging about Vladimir Putin because I'm not crazy. But I will say this, you know, he was a KGB spy in his early career. He is a jiu-jitsu black belt, according to people who are familiar with martial arts. He doesn't play around, right? He's not afraid of conflict. And so we'll have to see how these sanctions curve this behavior and if he decides to stop moving forward with this. You know, the challenge here is, you know, he ran when he was running for president originally, he ran on bringing Russia back to its former glory. And you know, its former glory to some people means it continuing to expand, and it had many countries now seen as sovereign nations were a part of that USSR, right? That like kind of Russian empire. And so to me, I mean, if he's trying to restore it back to its former glory, and a lot of people interpret that as expansion of Russian territories, you know, Crimea was first in 2014. Ukraine is happening currently, the rest of Ukraine. What does that potentially mean for other bordering countries? You know, that's the question that I have, and I don't know. Now, but specifically talking to the Africans that are there, that's also very concerning, right? Because they're there for an education, and now they're dealing with two countries that are at war, and they're right in the middle of it. So yeah, this to me is just, it's all concerning and not ideal. And I'm not loving the answers I'm hearing from African politicians on how they plan to solve this problem. All right. Anybody else have anything to say? Any other thoughts on today's topic? Anything before we go? Okay, so Mommy Berry Official says, this is just going to make him continue pushing into other nations and not backing down. I mean, and this is what I'm saying is will he continue on this path? It's possible. And I don't know, you know, for me, it's really concerning. And I just think back to, like I said, the story to me is the Africans there and those who want to leave and can't, you know. I just don't like it. Not a fan. I was not really feeling that. All right, guys. Look, we're at an hour. We're about 40 seconds away from this being a 1 hour live. Usually we go to hour and a half longer. We've gone as long as 2 hours and 30 minutes. But today I do have to cut it at 1 hour because I am in the middle of a ton of different projects and things that I need to do. But I want to shout out a couple people. One, Jaya Kai, my cousin, for sending over those two links so we can get some more context about what's happening and what some of the officials have been saying. I think that's been helpful. And also you got to hear from a person on the ground who is a student there, or at least on the day that the invasion happened. And so I'd like to be able to give you guys an update sometime this week on what's happening. And then I have a big personal update next Monday, a big one. So make sure you guys tune in next Monday. Also, I have more content coming out. So I'm going back to 3 videos a week. So Wednesday or Thursday, we got content coming out. And then Saturday, I got more content coming out. And then back to Monday, Thursday, Saturday, we're back on it again. 3 videos a week. We're coming back to that. So stay tuned for all of that. All right, guys, I'm going to call it. If you guys like this content, make sure you hit that thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe. Hit that notification bell. Make sure when you hit the notification bell, you have the option to do always. So you're always notified every time a new video comes out. And of course, make sure you share this with anybody who wants to know about what's happening and wants to be able to find a way to help. Peace, no narrative. Thanks for joining. All right, guys. Thanks, everyone, for joining. I will see you all on the next video.